another episode of Digitalk Architects. Today we have Baz Porter with us. Baz, welcome to the show. Please tell us about yourself, your experience, and what you've been up to.
Firstly, Caroline, thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. It's a pleasure to be with your audience and with you. So as Caroline said, I'm Baz Porter. I am an executive concierge coach. However, I don't really go under the name of coaching. I'm more of an architect. I help reverse engineer people's lives and businesses from a much bigger vision that they can see. Somebody once told me many years ago that you can't fix a problem with the same brain that created it. So I'm that guy that comes in and stands back from the bigger picture to see what you actually really want, and is it in alignment with who you are, what your bigger vision is, and then we go together, partner up, and I help you get it, basically.
Awesome. Okay, so you and I had the chance to meet prior to today, and your life story, it's quite remarkable. You've lived through extreme transformation from hitting rock bottom to building multiple seven figures business, losing it and rebuilding again, right? That's not easy. What was the real turning point that changed how you approach business and life to get you to where you are today?
Great question. I think I realized when I was first building it, let me back up a minute, because when you start to build something, you think you know it all. You think you've got it all figured out. I came to America not knowing what even entrepreneurship was. I didn't really know what coaching was. I was very green to the whole industry, and I scaled very, very quickly from $7 to seven figures in 14 months. But that sounds great on paper, and it sounds great for the listener. If you haven't got the systems in place, if you haven't got the architecture, and you haven't got the right people around you, as I discovered, it fell apart very, very quickly. In that journey, I realized that business wasn't what people thought it was. It's an identity. It's a part of who we are as entrepreneurs. But it's also a game. And when you start treating life and business like a game that you're winning and you're constantly learning, you have a different outlook on what's happening and what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
Business isn't about money. It isn't about the status and fame, what car you drive. It's actually about impact and ripple effect for me personally. And when I discovered that, it changed my whole outlook on not just my business, but my life, how I serve people, how I look at where they're going, how it can really impact not just today, but your future, your grandkids, your great-grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stand back and you think, well, I have the possibility, I have the capability and possibility to have the effect, the ripple effect for far greater things, you tend to have a different look on life. And that's what I tend to do, is go from the approach from business as a game, a spiritual game, a internal game, rather than just, it's just the numbers. It is numbers, it is systems, it is operations. They're all a part of it. But the internal dialogue is, how can I impact even more people? How can I create even more success in other people's lives?
Amazing. You just said you went from $7 when you came to America to, what it is today, whatever that number is. Tell us that story, because it's fascinating.
I was a hobo. I was homeless. I was traveling. I left the UK in 2019 with $360 one-way plane ticket to New York. In them 3 months, I traveled 33 states up and down the country, and I ended up in California, where I met a client. She was a doctor. She is a doctor. She's still with us, obviously, but she's a doctor. And she said, "Can you come for a meal?" I did. I said, "Yes, I haven't eaten properly in 3 months. I'm all up for that." So I met her at a bar, and she brought a +1 with her. That +1, her name is Nicola, and we started, exchange numbers. We went on a couple of days later. We went on a 3-day date at Venice Beach. It should have been just a couple of hours. It turned into 3 days. On the 16th of April, um, 2019, had to fly to Australia because my visa had run out in this country, and I had booked a flight, pre-booked a flight to go to Australia to travel and help people there. So she drove me to the airport, which was LAX, and I spent 3 months in Australia. We had a long distance relationship where it was WhatsApp and getting to know each other. She flew me back to this country in July, and that was the turning point of where I thought I was going. Originally, I was going to go to Tibet, disappear, which I was good with. 3 months later, we got married. None of this was planned. It wasn't. So I didn't have any other paperwork apart from my passport. The same client that I met, the doctor, gifted me and Nicola a retreat to the Rosario Hotel with Rob Wilgan in Orcas Island in Washington State. In
Nice.
10 days, we arranged a wedding. And then from that point, and the trajectory of my business and what I was doing sort of like escalated to that next level. I met somebody very, very, very influential and well known on that retreat. And from there, he had celebrity status. And I'm under an NDA, so I can't tell you who it is. But from there,
Sure.
it went straight through the roof. And then I was, oh, this is all cool. What am I doing? Ended up being a Tony Robbins Platinum Partner, speaking on stages, not with Tony, but global stages. One of the 35,000 people in the Excel in London. I've done a Princeton from all of this, but I wasn't prepared for any, entrepreneurship game. I didn't know business. I didn't know what coaching was. I just wanted to help people. And
Mhm.
that journey was so impactful for me. It was so educational to have real world experience. And I'm not teaching from a place, or I'm not guiding from a place or teaching at all of not doing it or knowing it. I've not done a course. I've actually lived the journey. Someone once said to me, there's a difference between someone who's done it, that's advice. Someone who hasn't done it, that's advice. Someone who's lived the journey is counsel. And they're the best people to actually work with to get what you want because they have the pathway or they have the knowledge and they've actually lived the journey rather than just reading a book, doing a course, and then claiming they're a coach or whatever they're claiming to be. I'm not that guy. I've lived that journey. So when I help people, I went to the bottom where I was homeless, drug addiction, uh, I was not a very nice person for a very long time. So I know that version of me. But
Mhm.
equally, I know now because of that journey what I do want, what is possible for not just myself but other people, if they're willing to go into their own journey and face their selves. And a part of that is the systems in business. It is the systems in life. It is AI. It is the new technology coming up. They're all a part of it, but it starts
Mhm.
understanding what you truly want. And if you know what you don't want, like
Right.
I had to find out myself, you have an idea of what you do want.
So earlier on, you said you don't describe yourself as a coach, or, you describe yourself more as an architect. What does that actually mean in practice? And how is that different than most coaches that are doing what they do right now?
Yeah. So coaching in the industry of coaching has been saturated, and there's nothing. I'm not having a pop at coaches or consultants. That's a phrase. It's a box.
Hmm.
I realized that there's a lot of people out there are disappointed with the personal development world in some way, shape, or form. They've had an experience that they were dissatisfied with or didn't meet their expectations. And as soon
Correct.
as I said to certainly my ideal clients, "Oh, I'm a coach," they immediately shut their ears. They didn't want to know because they have a frame through an experience that they had with somebody else that now everybody in the industry who says they're a coach, they're a consultant, they're a mentor, gets tarred with the same brush. When I say to somebody, I'm an architect, I don't build buildings, I don't design them, but I can help you design that life, that business. And it intrigued people more than repelled them because I'm not designing from where you are. I'm not creating from that space. I'm creating from your vision when we go into it from much further from stepping back and much further from down the road where you are right now. So I speak to the version of yourself in 10 years. I speak to your family's version in 1,000 years. We create something called a 1,000-year vision. So what
Mm-hmm.
you're remembered for in 1,000 years, people don't go out that far. People don't think about that.
No.
But
Most
most
of them
people,
10, maybe 5 or 10 years at most.
so one of the questions I asked when I'm onboarding people into the programs is, what do you want to be remembered for in 3 generations removed? So that's your great great grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
What do they know about you? What do you want them to know about you? And it really has a deeper feeling and
That
impact
is.
when you start going into that thought and go, wow, because people don't want to know what that is. But me personally, my real why I do all of this, I want my great great grandkids to be walking down the beach or walking down the road and someone to come up to them and say, is your great 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 uncle or granddad Baz Porter? They said, yes, yeah, we know of him, yeah. He helped me change my life. He helped my family change their life and the trajectory. That's what I want to be remembered for. Not Baz was a complete nutcase. He was an alcoholic, because that was a version of me, and I take full responsibility for anything like that. But people know you from and have an experience over what they think about you 20 years ago. They don't know you now. People change.
Yeah. So in the business side of things, this 1,000-year vision for business owners who are, I mean, let's be honest, most business owners are stuck in that short-term survival mode, right? How
Yes.
do you get them to think that far ahead? And why does it matter for the business owner that's struggling or, stuck in the day to day of their business?
One of the things I learnt through my own experience is your business is a direct correlation with your identity, who you believe
Hmm.
you are. And we all have limitations. We all have these beliefs that we're not worthy, can't do it, can't be loved, money doesn't grow on trees. The list can go on for a very, very long time.
It's true.
When you step back and you say, well, is that belief me? Is it truly what I believe, or was it something I was taught? Is business where it is right now something that I was taught or components to it as a child? And usually, not always, but usually, there is a level of identity from yourself inserted in the business, and it's a limiting belief or a limiting identity part of you, an identity part that is preventing you seeing your capability. And
Mm,
this is where we get stuck, because we start going, it's the marketing, it's the leads, it's the copy, it's the product, and we make excuses. These are normal, and some of them, yes, are valid. But the reason people go into this survival mode, the
mhm.
sympathetic body, is because they get scared that they're not good enough. It's not the product's not good enough, it's they're not good enough. And they're proving
Sure.
themselves. I went through this journey, so I know. I went through, I've got to prove myself. I've got to be in these big rooms and speak louder, be more. No one cares.
How did you overcome that self-doubt?
Facing it head on.
Okay.
I had to be radically honest with myself. And the radical honesty comes from, okay, what's really going on? Name it. Don't
Mhm.
assess it, just name roughly what it is. And then what I did was forgive it, forgive aspects of myself. There's a guy called Chase Hughes. He's a big identity reset guy. He's trained multiple people in the world, including intelligence companies, 3-letter agencies, and Fortune 50 companies. One of the things he speaks about is radical forgiveness for previous versions of yourself. I did not know back then who I was, what I was doing, and we acted from fear. Everything we do is an action out of 6 things. I'm not going to go through the whole 6 things, but most of them is about status. One of them is about status and how other people view us, and it's
Right.
installed because we don't want to look less than equal to everybody else or above somebody. This is where the ego takes play. And
Mhm.
if we look like, let's take someone very well known, if you know him, Tony Robbins, 40 years
Mhm.
experience, global network, invested in 100 and odd businesses. I can't even remember how many now. I think it's 162. He's one person, but he's surrounded himself with people who are very, very good at what they do. And the reason he can do and command that is because internally he knows who he is. But if you listen to his story, way back when he was a kid, there was a guy knocking at his door with a turkey. He came from nothing. And it took him a very long time, I mean, like 25 years, to even get established to do what he's doing today. And
Mhm.
now he chooses what he does. He's got the freedom, he has the impact. But it started being radically honest with himself first. He became his first client and he forgave himself. And you have that pattern. And we all have that capability of forgiveness and understanding and then moving through that.
Yeah. Okay. I remember you mentioned you've interviewed something like 450 women running multiple figure
Mhm.
businesses and found a disconnect between their public success and their private struggles. What patterns did you see, and how should that change how we think about success in business?
When I was rebuilding my business, I wanted to create something that was validated. It wasn't just my creation. I wanted to go into what I thought was my ideal clients. And an ideal client is the person over the journey of the period of the client is going to spend the most money and have the most value and give the most impact further down the line. That's what an ideal client is for me. That changes through industries and other components. But I wanted to go what really matters to this person. So I sat down over a weekend, 4 days it was, and I voice messaged everybody that I thought fitted that criteria in my LinkedIn. And I said, I've got nothing to sell you. This isn't a pitch. I generally have three questions for you. Can I have 10 minutes of your time? I'm building something, but I really want your feedback and understanding. And I messaged 700, over 700, 450, 448, booked a call and showed up. There was a lot more booked calls. Some didn't show up and I had to follow up. But originally, 448 responded. And that's a lot of time and a lot of information. So I recorded
Yeah.
the call. Um, and then I went through the transcripts. And then I found 12 core patterns. They range from self abandonment to anger to abuse. And the stories I heard in there, I can never divulge, but they were horrific. But the patterns were consistent. They built up this brand, this business. And then we saw the perfect LinkedIn profile, the perfect Instagram, the
Mhm.
perfect website. They had the success on the outside. But when I was actually having conversations with these women, they kept alluding to something much deeper and darker. And they had something to prove to the world because something specific happened to them in order to prove their worth externally. And the sacrifices they were making were internal. So the confidence, there were massive amounts of imposter syndrome, and they were silently shutting down. This is what is commonly known as burnout, but there are levels of burnout. This is what I've distilled as the silent collapse. So it happens at home first. You disconnect from your partners, your kids, you're engrossed in your phone. At 10 o'clock at night, you're having a bottle of wine instead of going to bed. You get engrossed with addictions, bad habits, and this is where it starts. But the thing that happens after that is then you disassociate with that personal side of yourself and you become your brand's identity. And this persona that you've put out, this perfect version of yourself, suddenly consumes you. And you start abandoning yourself for the brand. So there's no alignment. And then you start seeping energy, calls, business, because you're not aligned with yourself. And it's all aspects of burnout and imposter syndrome all wove into one. This is the silent collapse. And that's what I discovered on these calls.
Okay. Was that so? Can you talk a little bit about those patterns you discover?
Yep.
So you're talking the burnout. It's I'm assuming kind of one, but
Yes.
you said you identified 8,
12.
12. Okay.
So the 12 core patterns, they range from self-abandonment, self-loathing, anger, disbelief. There's levels of burnout, and there's physical burnout, there's emotional burnout, there's mental burnout, and there's business burnout. There are levels as you go through this that change the psychology and your identity, because now you have to put the band-aid on to cover
Mm-hmm.
it up, and then there's another one explodes and you put another band-aid on. So I asked people, I built a community around this called A Million Dreams, and we go through over a 3-month period the actual patterns, what they do, how they show up individually and in a group, and also the pathway to go remove, to identify them, and then the steps to overcome them gradually. So it's not just a fire hose, like, oh my God, I've got to all do this today, because that you can't. It's identifying, acceptance, clarifying, and then reframing in that process.
Okay.
And the major ones I've just mentioned, self-abandonment comes in many different forms. It's your subconscious, with your subconscious. There's 3 levels. You've got conscious brain, subconscious, and superconscious. The superconscious is what functions everything. It's in the myglia in the middle of your brain. It's in the central nervous system. Your subconscious is the recorder. It's the thing that creates the patterns and helps create your identity. The conscious brain is what we do willingly, free will. I will do this, and then you know where you're going with it. Subconsciously, you're running on a program. You're saying the same things to yourself over and over again. These are a direct result of the patterns and the belief systems and the values that you've been taught or shown.
Mm-hmm.
Once you identify the patterns, and there are 12 main ones, there are offshoots, there's many different things. And I've created, under the RAMS framework, 6 identifying levers that can remove, so you can identify them and then remove them systematically, and change the relationship with them and replace it with something that suits you or is you now, not a previous version of yourself.
Okay.
The patterns of the subconscious programming that are always happening, that a lot of the time prevents high achievers. And there are traits to high achievers. One is ADHD. So a
Sorry,
lot of
which one?
one is ADHD. Is for high achieving people, they have ADHD. It's classified as
Okay. Yeah.
ADHD or DDD. But we all play roles in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Once we understand who that person is in the role, and is it suitable for that role, we can then change it. Because if you're in a business that you need to be, that is demanding, is that business affecting you? And are you having the right identity in it? Or are you letting people walk over you? What are you accepting as
Mm-hmm.
normality? I went through this, and I wasn't the right persona or person or identity in my business. And when I realized it, I was like, oh no, I'm a nice person. I can be a good person, but in this role, I have to be firm. I don't have to be nasty, don't have to be mean. I just have to be firm and state what the terms are, and then clarify we're on the same page. But they come from all the patterns. And the journey of
Right.
going through the patterns, identify where your psychology is, where your mind states are. I have a concept called mind states, not mindsets. State is a being, it's a way
Right.
of becoming. A set is a limitation. If you look at a tennis court, it comes in a set. It's a limitation, it's a box. So what I try and do is remove the boxes and allow you
Mm-hmm.
to create your state of being.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about you, the business person, right?
Mhm.
So you have built this business as a one-man operation,
Yeah.
right? And when we first started talking, we kind of got into the talk of AI and automations.
Mhm.
And um you said, I've built this one-man operation basically using AI tools combination of, a bunch of them go high level to run and scale without having to scale a team. How has that experience been for you? Tell us, what is it like?
Very challenging. It's like building, it's a new skill set. So like in it, learning anything, if you're learning how to play football, if you're coming in there as a novice, you got to learn how to play, learn the rules, how to get fit. There's also all sorts of challenges that come with that. The same with building a business. Same with learning artificial intelligence. The
Hmm.
challenge that I find with artificial intelligence is moving so fast. And there's
So
people,
fast.
yeah,
It
it's just
changes
insane.
daily, basically.
Yeah. But one of the things I notice is everybody's an expert. I'm not an expert. I know a bit. I know enough to be able to, a little bit dangerous, but I'm not an expert. But what I am doing is I'm a steward, and it's a constant learning. Something
Hmm.
changes. How does that affect me and my bigger outcome? And if it's changing, how can I change it to suit the ease and flow of what I truly want in my business? And how does that affect my clients and also the future outcome of what they want? One of the things that I noticed people say about they struggle with, and I struggle with this way back when, is clients will list of the qualified leads. I got fed up of having tire kickers come to my door and go, well, I maybe that's too expensive. I don't know about this. That's not the objection. When I've had these calls, and I've had a lot of calls with prospects, with clients, with my research, there's always one thing, and they don't know they're saying it until after I clarify with them. And it's usually that they can't see themselves in the result. They don't see the value in the products,
Hmm.
and also they don't see themselves at the end result. With artificial intelligence, when you look back on the transcripts, when you do a deeper dive of what they're really saying, because it reads everything and it can interpret different language and patterns, which humans are
Right.
patterns, then you can go, oh, they said this. What they really meant was this. And that's data. Once you have data, you can then adjust the language of how you have these calls. You can then preempt what they're going to say, as in the objection or the reason
Hmm.
why they can't do it. It's expensive. That's not expensive. My answer for when someone says now that's expensive, that's not expensive compared to what you get in the value of it, and you just can't afford it. And that pisses people off a
Hmm.
lot. But it's designed to. It's not a attack on somebody.
Right.
It exposes the true meaning of what they've just said. It's not that they can't afford it, because I have financial options and all the rest of it. I have that.
Right.
But what it does is challenge their own identity about their own self-worth. AI made these conversations possible because it would pick up things that I would not see. And then I would account for automations. So people say, oh, I haven't got enough leads, that I'm losing leads. Well, Go High Level is a business beast if you know how to use it properly and you have the guidance to use it or have the time to learn
Hmm.
it
It
to
is a
follow up.
beast.
It is a beast.
It's big.
It's an animal.
We run our business on it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But you need to have the automations in, and
Hmm.
it says in the back of it, which take time to build and really understand, and the triggers to fire and all the other complicating stuff that people go, oh my God, I'm going to get overwhelmed
Correct.
and I can't do it because they panic. But the moment you start preempting that journey, that client journey, if the client does this or the prospect does this, what happens then? What is the reaction for the reaction to the cause of what they've just done? If they've messaged you, and is there a follow-up sequence? Is there a birthday sequence in there? Do you know their birthday? Do you have that data? If they click that button, what happens then? What's that pathway? And AI now makes that possible. And if you integrate OpenAI, and there's many of them, you've got ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, DeepSeek.
So
There's so
many.
many options.
So many.
I mean, I use Claude a lot. I use ChatGPT for brainstorming. I use Manis, and I stack them. So I've stacked an LLM with all my
Mhm.
data behind the scenes so it can respond as me. If someone messages the phone number, there is a response. There is a follow-up. It then notifies me saying, someone did this, get hold of them. This is a hot lead. If they've watched a video, there's an automation in the back end. If they've watched 80% or more, I get notified. I then go on the computer, dial in the number from my work's phone, not my personal, and I have a conversation. Hi, you just watched 80% of the video. Did you enjoy it? Can I help? That's an engaged prospect. You're not
Right.
selling because you don't know if you can help them. First thing I say, hi, I'm
Mhm.
Baz. I just saw you watch the video, and what did you think of it? I'd love your feedback. Read the feedback. So, is this going to help you? And I ask questions. They're not sales questions; they're qualifying questions. When they say, "What are you trying to sell?" I said, "I don't know. I can't sell you anything because I don't know if I can help you yet. I don't know you. I've just picked up the phone. All I know is that you've watched a video. I don't know your problem. I don't know what you want. I don't know if I can help you, let alone if you can work with me. So why would I try and sell
Right.
something to you if I don't know who you are or even if I can help you?" This is the difference between qualifying somebody who comes in through automations and then stacking LLMs and APIs through a system actually works, and go high level works hands down. It is the best product. And I'm not an affiliate with them. Don't get anything from this. It is the best product that I've ever used that does exactly what it says on the tin. But you've got to work on it. You've got to understand it, employ it,
Definitely.
and do it yourself, and get them to do it. But you don't know if it's going wrong and how to fix it if you don't know about it.
Right. So on the note of AI and, how you're using it, there is a lot of noise around AI, especially in marketing. But from your perspective, what are most people getting wrong about AI? And, we're talking businesses, right?
Mhm.
And business owners. What should the business owner actually focus, with this whole AI market?
A very well-known guy, his name is Peter Swain, in AI intelligence. An incredible guy. He's also a personal friend. His wife, Lizzie, and Pete, they're just incredible people. He once said to me, AI doesn't help your business. AI will amplify your business. So if you have a bad business model, it will amplify the bad business. If you have a mediocre business, it will amplify the mediocre. It's
Okay.
not a fixer, it's an amplifier. And most people try and build businesses about themselves, not who they're actually serving. I learned this lesson very hard. Cost me $2.1 million just for reference. And that is something that I hate other people to go through. And I took a long time to forgive myself for this because I didn't see it. When I stepped back and AI kept coming in and was released and everyone was like, oh, AI is going to fix everything. And then there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty with it, all the rest of it. And yes, in certain theaters, they're valid. But if you have a bad business that isn't truly serving people and you're not playing that game, it will amplify all of the bad stuff or the not
Hmm.
serving stuff, the negative. But if you do a deep dive, like I had to, and I had to learn this, into who you're actually serving, your business structure, the foundation. Nothing is ever built that it lasts without a good foundation. House, if the foundation crumbles, you have no house. Same with a business, same with a person. So you look at the business, the foundation, the message, the market, what you want to, your brand or identity, and then you align it with your ideal clients. There is things you can do to really go deep within the psychology of that person and the psychology and frameworks of the business to align both so everything is working at the same time. And then you go to artificial, humanize this, as in do it yourself. You can use AI for ideas. That's fine.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, you're speaking to another human being, whether it be a business behind it, there is a human being. And that is the person that has to align with what you do. You can only serve as one person, one at a maximum of, let's say, 50 people in serving one on ones. depending on your business model. Let's go for really like basic numbers.
Mm-hmm.
If anything else comes in, you're going to have to expand. If you get famous, if you go nuts, or you have a product that's going insane, you can either work more hours
Right.
and do more, or you can employ a team and
Mm-hmm.
systemize it. AI is great at systemizing things and pointing out what you don't know and automating the rest. But at the very core of it, you're still talking to people. If I send an email, I know if I receive an email, I know whether it was sent by artificial intelligence or it was sent by a human being. There's an energy behind it that cannot be described. Always speak as if you were speaking to a human being, but
Correct.
don't accept what it tells you the first time, because it's drawing off billions of data sources, billions,
Mm-hmm.
not trillions by now. I don't know the actual number, but what Pete
It's
said
pretty
was,
high.
yeah,
It's
I don't know
big.
the actual number, but
I
I know
think yeah,
the last time I heard
it's massive.
it was billions something, but as I said, as we said, it changes all the time. But it's all an aspect of making life easier. And if you align with the intelligence, and it is an intelligence, it's not a tool. People treat it like a tool. It is not a tool. It is used as a systemized automation, can be in many different aspects, and brainstorming and learning more and deep diving things. That's all great. They're tools it has, but it is an intelligence. Hence, artificial intelligence. It's in its name. When people say, "Oh, I'm failing at social media," is not something you can fail at. It says it in its name. Show yourself, be in media, and be social. Comment on things, interact.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you get the rewards. You comment on people, you share people's stuff, you have conversations. That's being social. And social
Right.
media will reward you for doing that. The same with artificial intelligence. It is an intelligence, but it will amplify what you don't see and equally what you do see. So challenge it to do better.
Very good. So one of the most interesting things that you've said is asking people about what they don't like instead
Mhm.
of what they like. How can businesses apply that approach to improving their marketing and their customer understanding and relationships?
Great question. There is something called, commonly known as an enemy framework. Years ago on YouTube, I think it's still there, there's a video of a guy wandering around on a mountain, and he's on his own. He's dancing around, and obviously they fast forward it, sped up, and then one
Mm-hmm.
person comes up, another person comes up, another person comes up. The same thing happens with business. AI was fictitious 40 years ago. It was a thing of
Yeah.
the future. They were going to do hoverboards. Back to the Future did a whole serious thing on this. It was just a thing of imagination. Now it's not. It's
Right.
reality.
Yeah.
Your people, your ideal clients, as I said, are human beings, and they're all rallying to something positive and a negative. Not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. It's just in their view, they don't like this, and they will open up more easily to somebody who says, I agree with you about this subject. These are what we call
Right.
tribes or communities. When you have a tribe or a community, you're able to share, but they all have something in common. They're driving towards something and they're moving away from something else. These come in many different sections. So if you ask somebody, so what really upsets you? What ticks you off? What boils your blood? They will open up more easily than going, so what do you like? What food do you like? It's like dating somebody. When you first meet them, you're like, oh, do I ask this? Do I ask that? You say to somebody, so what pisses you off? Just so I know I don't do it. What really upsets you? What boils your blood? You're like, don't ever do this. They get passionate. You're now reversing the role. You're now not like everybody else who's trying to sell something. You're asking something very important to that person, and you're going to get an emotional reaction. You're going to get someone say, I despise this, and they will tell you. There's an experiment for this, and please do this. Go to Costco. The supermarkets are great for this. And just in conversation with somebody, I heard I read or heard that employees at Costco were going to get a raise of 30%. That means they're going to get $50, $60 per hour. And if it's wrong, watch them correct you. Where did you hear that? That's not true. You haven't said yes or no. You've just made a statement, and they will correct you with it. If you say that in a prospective environment, I read
Mm-hmm.
something today about this specific to them. If it's true, they will back it up. If it's false, they will immediately correct you because they want you to come onto their tribe. They want to go, I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happens in right and wrong in people's belief systems. They want to be a part of something. So if you say to somebody, what really boils your blood? Just so I don't do it, because I don't want to upset you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, they'll tell you. The next phase to that is, so can I clarify, repeat back what they've said? Why? Why does that make you angry or upset so much? They're going to tell you again. That even them two questions will have so much clarity on what the person's belief is, where they're actually stuck in their business. Is it a lead problem? Is it an artificial intelligence problem? Is it a business problem? Is it a product problem? Is it marketing? Most of it will come back to them because
Right.
I've done this, and this is how I know. I blamed sales teams. I blamed the marketing. It wasn't me. It was social media. It wasn't. It was a sales process. It was everything else, but it wasn't me. It was me 100% of the time because it was something that I wasn't seeing that I had the ability to fix.
Right.
That's radical honesty. And when an entrepreneur does that at any level, they can start to move through it. It's not a great walk. It's not a walk in the park. Can be very challenging. But when
Right.
you step back and say, well, what have I contributed to the problem? And you ask somebody in a business or in who you're trying to help, so what really, really upsets you? That question and then going deeper will expose what's really going on because they have to be right. Prime example is religion or politics.
Oh boy. Yes.
The same thing. I don't do it. One of the things I never do is do either because I don't care. Just one of my thing. I can't vote. It's none of my business. Whatever. And people
Right.
try to drag me into that. I'm like, no chance. Just no. But as soon as you say to them, I'm one or the other, there's always a reaction. The same with religion. You know, in Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland, it's kicking off over in Europe again in Northern Ireland because of just disagreements that can't be resolved.
Mm-hmm.
All of it is about opinions and emotionally driven opinions that happened hundreds of years ago. They may be right,
True.
they may be wrong. It doesn't matter. What matters now is what we can do about it to resolve it and bring everybody back into harmony, unity.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurs have the possibility, and a lot of them have the possibility and ambition to have unity, to create a better world for our future. Why we do
Mm-hmm.
what we do.
Right.
But what does that really mean for you? You don't have to be on one side of the fence or the other, but you ask a question to somebody and say, what really pisses you off? What really gets your blood boiling? They will tell you. And they'll tell you more easily than, so what do you like? Because they don't know, because they're afraid of getting it wrong. Will that offend somebody? Will that
Right.
upset the person I'm speaking to? But tell them what you don't like, ask them what you don't like, they will tell you. Bam. Because they
Because
want
it
you.
does. Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting, the difference in the reaction to one question or the other.
They mean the same thing,
Yeah.
expose the same thing. It's just people have a perception of, is that right for this person? They want to,
Aligned.
yeah, they want to be validated.
Yeah.
And then,
Validation, which
yeah,
is what most people seek, right?
yeah, because they can't stand up and say, well, I believe in this. And they're afraid of the repercussions. Then you have the online experience where you have everybody is a free for all. I'll just say what I want and there's no repercussions, and this is where we can go down the rabbit hole of online bullying and it's just nuts. But be accountable for you. Be accountable for your business, who you are, what you stand for. And if you mess up, own it. Just own it.
R-
You take away the power from everybody by owning it.
All right, Baz, thank you so much for coming out and spending this time with us. It's been very informative and interesting. Thank you for telling us a little bit about your story. And for everybody else, we'll see you in the next episode. All right.